Hello Exiles, and welcome to my Path of Exile Bootcamp Series, where we are going to be going through everything PoE1 related, and whether you are a returning player, a new player to Path of Exile 1, or maybe you just want to see what it's like, then this guide series is for you. Now on today's video, we're going to be going through every single class and what skills and what are the best items and skills that you should be running through the acts up until you get to around about Act 4, Act 5. Some of them can actually take you all the way to maps, but I'm going to give you the basis of what you should be running, the links that you should be running with it, and then I'm going to go through and give you a very basic skill tree just to get you to around about level 30, at which point then you should be able to then run for yourself, and you should then be able to switch in maybe to a build that you are aiming to go for, and you can switch over at that point. Now, before we jump into the content, I just want to say thank you for everyone that has subscribed to my channel over the last couple of months. And if you have not subscribed and you've just found the channel, then by all means, throw me some support if you are enjoying these videos or this bootcamp guide series if it has helped you, or maybe it's helped somebody else. By all means, throw me a subscribe and it would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's jump into this video. Now, as I said, we're going to go through every single class. Now, on the starting class screen, as you can see in front of you here, we have the Witch, the Duelist, the Ranger, the Scion, Marauder, Shadow, and the Templar. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to run through them in that order, and we're going to run through what skills you should be running, at what points you should be switching over to a different skill, and we will go through the supports that you should then be running as well. And what I will do is I will do all of this in game just so that you can see the actual gems, what they look like, and the colors that they are. So let's begin. Now, for the first one is going to be the Witch. Now, the Witch will run the exact same skills as the Templar. So everything that I'm going to run through with yourself now is exactly the same for the Templar. So we're going to be doing both of the classes. Now, the 2-3 links that you are going to be running is from the quests that you get right at the end, right at the beginning of Act 1, you will be running with Rolling Magma. Then after that, you will then get combustion support later on in once you are going through the actual acts. You will get to Brutus, and you will then get Combustion. That is when you can then link that with it. Arcane Surge, you will be able to get from level 1. So this is your first 3 link that you will want to run, and this will do all of the damage that you need. Now, there is a secondary damage that you can do, which is Holy Flame Totem, which you will be able to get once you get into the Submerged Passage. You would take Summon Phantasm Support, which you can get at the same time, and Flame Wall also is available at this point, so you can then link all 3 of these together. Now, Rolling Magma is a skill which obviously is literally just a bouncing ball of magma. The trick to it is that you want to try and throw it right at your feet so that it bounces the most amount of times towards your enemies. If you put your mouse over here, it will completely jump over them and you might not get as many bounces, whereas if you throw it at your feet, you may get a secondary or third bounce on the enemy. Now, this 3 link should then keep you going all the way up until around about level 30, at which point then you can then switch out and completely change the build and do whatever it is that you were planning on doing. But this is a very strong combination that will keep you running all the way through Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Then, in terms of a skill tree, this is your first 29 points. So you want to path up here through the spell damage nodes. You ideally then want to go over here, pick up Heart and Soul for the life and the mana. Come over here, pick the Firewalker, carry on up, pick the life, head straight for this Heart of Flame for the fire damage. And then at that point, if you then want a bit of survivability, you can then pick up potential Mind Over Matter, and then pick up the Quick Recovery. It's up to you whether you want to pick up Quick Recovery first and then pick up Mind Over Matter. But that is the Witch tree, and obviously the Templar tree will be slightly different, but we will go through that now. For the Templar, this is what you would want to do. You would want to start, go up here for the elemental side of the tree, come up to pick up the 15% increased damage and cast speed, come down to pick up the dex and attack and cast speed, pick up the life, pick up the spell damage and the crit, come through the middle to pick up resistances and elemental damage, then go down this side to pick up the increased life and increased maximum life, then come up, pick up this nice Divine Judgment, 50% increased elemental damage, and then for a bit more life, go up here and you can then pick up another 8% with some Chaos Res and some Energy Shield as well. That is your first 30 points for the Templar, and that will get you screaming through to Act 3. So the next class we're going to go through is the Duelist. Now, you want to go with Spectral Throw, and you will get this from level 1. Then when you get to the Submerged Passage, you can go back and pick up Volley. You can also pick up Maim. Maim will not be able to get until you kill Brutus in Act 1. Then once you get level 12, you then want to basically swap over to Sunder. You want to nick your Maim and put it in this 3-link, so you then have Sunder, Maim, and Chance to Bleed. Now, Chance to Bleed you can get from level 1, so that's entirely up to you whether you want to pick that up and start leveling it up in a offhand, just so that it is a nice level by the time you get to use it in level 12. Then, when you get to level 18, you want to swap and move your Sunder, move it across, and you want to use it in a setup with Close Combat, Chance to Bleed, and then eventually, when you get to level 31, you want to put in Fortify. That will then be your 4-link setup, and that will absolutely help you smash through the acts through to Act 3, if not going on into maps. Sunder is a very strong build and it will scale very well. Now, a good note to have here is in regards to crafting. Now, there is a craft that you can do during the act to try and help you get stronger and get some good weapons. Now, the recipe is a rustic sash. Doesn't have to be anything special, just a rustic sash that has global physical damage, a blacksmith whetstone, and any two-handed weapon. If you then put these into the vendor, it will then give you back a blue weapon that has a increased physical damage mod on it, which will then give you a nice boost of increased damage. So if you wanted to obviously increase your damage at any point, then that is the best way to do it, and you can keep doing that over and over and over until you get better and better physical damage weapons. So this is the Duelist tree that you would be running. So you would be going down, picking up the attack speed, evasion, picking up the attack speed and dex. You would then go through, pick up the life, the melee strike damage, go over to the bleeding node, go down, pick up the other bleeding node. This increases the chance of bleeding, and the big one at the end, which is aggravate, which obviously basically bleeding, which has aggravated, does higher damage. And then finally you would come down here for defensive purposes and pick up life, regen life, and armor, evasion, and resistances, which will all help you with the build. So that is the first 29 points for the Duelist. Now, the next one that we're going to be going through is the Ranger. Now, the same skills that I'm going to be going through for the Ranger are exactly the same for the Shadow. Now, this is because obviously the way they're placed on the tree, they are very similar and very next to each other, so they do get the same gems. So first of all, you would want to start as Caustic Arrow, and then once you get to the Submerged Passage, you will then be able to go back and pick up Pierce Support. You will be able to pick up Mirage Archer at the same time. The other 3-link you want to run is Shrapnel Ballista, which you will be able to get at the Submerged Passage. Chance to Bleed and Chance to Poison, though, you will be able to pick them quite early as soon as you get into town, so it's up to you if you want to pick these up so that they are leveling in the background. Then once you get to level 12, you will then want to swap to Toxic Rain and faster attacks, and what you will want to do is you will want to nick your Mirage Archer and put that with this 3 setup here. Then on the other side as well, you do want to get rid, and you want to then use a Toxic Rain, a faster attacks, and a Siege Ballista. What that will do is that will then fire your Toxic Rain as well. Then once you are able to then get a 4-link, what you then want to do is you then want to socket in Void Manipulation into both of these setups like this. Now, if you can pick this gem up from level 8, so once you've killed Brutus, you will be able to pick this up. So it's entirely up to you whether you want to pick one up and start leveling it up through the acts. You may get efficacy and you want to swap out for the faster attacks and swap both of those out, just because the amount of damage over time will scale and it does a lot of damage. So this would be your 4-link. However, this 4-link setup will then keep you running potentially all the way to maps. If you are lucky enough to find a 5-link, then you can socket in your faster attacks again. But in terms of the amount of damage that this will do, it will keep you comfortably all the way through the acts. This is a build that I know that will take you from Act 1 all the way through to Act 10, which I'm going to run through the skill tree with you now for the Ranger and the Shadow. This would be your Ranger tree, so you would start off and pick up all of these projectile damage nodes, pick up the speed and damage. You would then go across here and pick up all the increased damage with bows and damage over time. You would then go down, make sure that you pick up Primal Spirit, because that is very, very powerful. Then you pick up Finesse, go across to Quick Step, then go down and across to the Avatar of the Hunt, which will give you a ton of extra damage over time and damage with bows and and movement speed, and then head down here for the increased effect of onslaught and increased armor and evasion for a bit more defenses on yourself. That is the first 27 points. If you really wanted to just go for a little bit more damage for the next 2 points, you could always just take these two, but it's entirely your decision. That is going to be enough to keep you going up until around about Act 3. It's then at that point you can then decide where you want to go. If you want to go for the life, you want to get a good chunk of life here and go over here for the damage, it's entirely up to you. Now for the shadow is for a little bit differently. So you are going to be going through here for all the increased chaos damage and physical damage. We're going to pick up the attack speed, pick up down at the damage over time, pick up the life, go up here, pick up the extra increased damage, then go across, pick up the damage over time, pick up the life, and then head up here towards the increased chaos damage and skill effect duration. That is your first 30 points for the shadow. The next one would be the Scion. Now with the Scion, we're going to be going through Caustic Arrow, we're going to be using Pierce support, and we're going to be going Mirage Archer support. Now this is your first 3-link, and the other 3-link that you will be doing is you will be doing Shrapnel Ballista, Chance to Poison, and Chance to Bleed. Now eventually when you do get a 4-link and you are able to fit it in, you do then want to fit in Void Manipulation into the Caustic Arrow setup, and then once you get to level 38, you can actually put in Withering Touch into the Shrapnel Ballista setup. This setup I know will get you through the axe completely because I have done it before, and I know that it can get you through as long as you just keep upgrading your gems and obviously with your skill tree, which I'm going to run through now. Now the Scion, because she does start in the middle, you are able to start at nearly 6 different locations. So what we are going to do is we are going to take up the strength, the phys, the fire, the cold, the lightning, and going on to the resistances. Now you don't need to take this first, you can take this later on at any point. What I would possibly advise you to do straight away is take the attack speed and the movement speed and head down here for the projectile damage and all the way around to the suppress and evasion rating. And then if you are then struggling, you want a bit of resistances, you can then spec and go back and take these 4. It's entirely up to you, and then obviously go back and get the 5th later on. It's entirely your decision. Then go down here, pick up the Avatar of the Hunt, which is more damage over time and obviously increased damage with bows. And then further on, you want to follow this up, pick up Finesse, pick up Heart of Oak. If you are struggling for mana, pick up Primal Spirit, and then pick up Ballistics and Aspect of the Eagle. That is your first 31 points, and that will get you safely through. With Caustic Arrow, you will be able to completely go all the way through into maps with this if you are able to then continue with your tree. And there are many builds online, but there is your first 31 points of doing Caustic Arrow Scion. And finally, let's go through the Marauder. Now with the Marauder, you are going to be starting with Ground Slam, and you are going to want to pick up Ruthless, which is from early level 1, and then pick up Maim once you have killed Brutus. Once you get to level 12, you will then want to change over to Sunder, but you will want to still use your Maim and your Ruthless in your 3-link. So you will have Sunder, Ruthless, and Maim. Then, when you then get to level 18, you then want to move your Sunder across again, but now we want to be using Close Combat Support, Melee Physical Damage Support, and then later on, once you then get further on, you will then be able to get Cruelty. You may not be able to afford all of these depending on what type of currency has dropped for you, but this is going to be your initial 4-link that you are going to be wanting to be running. So Sunder, Close Combat Support, Melee Physical Damage, and Cruelty. Now, if for any reason you do get a 5-link, you can always throw in Ruthless or Maim. That's entirely up to you, but you could run this typically as a 6-link if you are able to get it. It's entirely up to you. Now let's run through the Marauder skill tree. Now this would be where you would go. So you would start and go through the maximum life and all the physical damage here. You would take up the increased attack speed and physical damage, pick up versatility for the global accuracy and movement speed, dex intelligence, pick up the life and the increased strength, pick up the more strength and regen life. We go around this loop, which gives you a increased physical damage with 2-handed weapons and attack speed, and all of the smaller ones are all very similar. We then go through here, pass through the maximum fire resistance and maximum life. We then go down and we then pick up the axes down here. So eventually you do want to be running a 2-handed axe, and then going up here, we then pick up resolute technique so that you never deal crits, but you monsters cannot evade you. And then finally, to get an extra 3 points, I've added in here Battle Trance for the rage. So you will gain rage whilst you are attacking, and rage will grant you 1% more attack damage for every single rage that you have. And that is the basic tree for the Marauder for the first 33 points. And that is basically it, guys. I hope that has helped you in terms of where you want to start and what you want to do. Obviously, I appreciate with the Legacy of Phorecia that's coming up, there are a lot of people that are going to be changing builds once they get their first ascendancy, and that is fine. So that is why I've only given you a guide up until around about Act 3, Act 4, but I do know that a lot of these builds will easily take you all the way through to maps, as long as you keep scaling it with those methods that I told you with using the vendors. Also with Ranger, you do want to be trying to get a short bow, just because Rangers obviously will want to try and get as many attacks off as possible, and obviously that will help you. Until the next video, where the next video we are going to be going through links, sockets, colors, duelers, fusings, chromatics, and everything in relation to quality and tainted currency, which we are going to quickly go through on the next video. So until the next video, guys, thank you for watching and stay sane.